All right, man. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 6 of the Between the Lines podcast. Um, Pretty good week from everything involved within the NFL. Lots to talk about. Really excited to do this podcast. Another one here today. As always, I'm Daniel.
I'm Michael. It's good to be back after a short week off. I had a busy week last week. Sorry I missed out on episode 5, but I know my boy Danny had it covered. But we're back. We're ready to go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just we have a couple games. We want to talk about lots of news that surfaced around the NFL today. So just some topics to talk about today. Uh, First off, first game we'll be talking about is the past Thursday night football game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants. And this was a game that I was really excited about. I had the Giants winning this game in our predictions, so it's pretty cool to see that upset in real time and just overall as the game was going on, it was really cool to see how the Giants were just really playing the Eagles, and it really wasn't. It didn't feel close at all, which was surprising. I wasn't expecting a blowout or anything. I was just expecting a close, gritty game between both teams, um, and that's what kind of would expect coming in. But that wasn't the case. Jackson Dart played a really good game. Him and Cam Scadaboo. Scadaboo had like 3 rushing touchdowns, almost 100 yards rushing. So CTE, man, gosh, I love that dude. Um,
He's a baller, man.
yeah,
He's a baller. Dude's an
him and
animal,
Jackson Dart, man, great 1-2 combo. And they're
oh, for
doing this
sure.
without Malik Neighbors on the offensive side. So just to see them kind of bring that, energy to New York, with everything that's going on, really great to see. Um, I thought defensively they played very well. They almost uh, took a pick six to the house. Brian Burns had a sack, former Carolina Panther. Um, their defensive line is no joke. I thought their overall defense played well as a whole. Obviously holding Philly to limited points, holding Saquon to uh, like arguably no rushing game. And so it was just a very good team win, very great team win overall. So definitely you know a great game for them. And as far as the Eagles go, there's obviously a lot of issues regarding them. I'm gonna let you voice what you have, but that's just like a quick recap for me what I thought.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, coming into this, you didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, the Giants coming off that loss to New Orleans, and New Orleans was kind of a surprise loss, letting New Orleans get their first win on them. The week before that, beating the Chargers, obviously, in Jackson Dart's debut. So, it was kind of a toss-up game. You didn't really know what to expect. You kind of thought it'd be a gritty, tough game. Usually is in division rival. But the Giants just played the better ball game. Like you said, the rookies really showed out. Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo had really good games. Dart 17 for 25, 195 and a touchdown on the ground and through the air. Scatterboo, like you said, 19 carries, 98 yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns, 110 total yards from scrimmage. That kid just seems to get better and better every week. So you love to see that. Like we said, we're very big fans of Cam Scatterboo. We like what we see from him. He's an animal. He doesn't want to run around you. He wants to run through you, and you can just love that from any type of player. You want a player on your team that does that, just isn't afraid to put his shoulders down and run through you, get that extra 2 or 3 yards, not run out of bounds, not run down, not run around you, just hard nosed football, just run through your face and see if you can tackle me over and over again. And that's just Cam Scatterboo. He's been like that, like they said, since high school. He's been like that at Arizona State, Sacramento State before that, and of course now with the New York Giants. He's just a physical running back who, he plays every down like he's fighting for his job, and you can just respect that out of anybody. A guy who was passed over by multiple teams, drafted into 100 draft picks, fourth round, a day 3 kind of guy, but if you looked at his stats and you look how he played at Arizona State, you think he'd be a second round pick, maybe a first round pick. And I think a lot of teams are now regretting that, hey, we passed on a guy who can really help our backfield out. Who, I want to highlight somebody. Wandale Robinson really showed out this week. 6 receptions, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Obviously, he was wide open on that 35-yarder from Dart. For the Eagles, I think the passing game really worked well. Obviously, like you said, Hurts threw a pick that almost went back to the house. He was 24 for 33, 283 with a touchdown and a pick. He also had a rushing touchdown, which was the tush push, which um, to to many people maybe a horrible play, to some maybe a great play. To each their own. AJ Brown 6 receptions, 80 yards. Barkley really had a quiet game, 12 carries for 58 yards. He hasn't really shown up all year. We'll talk about it later, but
Yeah,
Rico Dowdle through 2 weeks on the ground, scrimmage yards, has more yards than Saquon does in scrimmage yards all year, and that's a defending offensive player of the year in the NFC and a possible what some people would say was the MVP last year. Dallas Goddard had a good game at tight end, 9 receptions, 110 yards and a touchdown. But the real big thing everybody was wondering is Tyrone Tracy coming back. He was a high pick for most people in their fantasy drafts. You have Devin Singletary. You also have Cam Scatterbo, a rookie. Who is your running back one? Who is going to take over that backfield? Who's going to take over the running back slot beside Jackson Dart? And the clear cut number one under Brian Dable is Cam Scatterbo, 19 carries, 98 yards, like I said, 3 touchdowns. Tyrone Tracy and Singletary both active, and they only had 7 combined carries between both of them. So it definitely seems like Scat is the guy they want to keep back there with Dart. Run with two rookies and run behind that offensive line, who's definitely gotten better. Andrew Thomas came back, so New York's a good team to look for, man. I love what I'm seeing out of Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo. Definitely a team I'm going to keep my eye on. I have all year, even when they were with Russell Wilson. They're a unique team. They have good young pieces in there that could really jumpstart that team, but they also have a coach who, on some people's radar, is on the hot seat. So it's kind of a conflicting spot in New York. We're just trying to see what the identity is. Does Brian Dable form a culture there that he can keep his job and keep that team rolling? It's definitely something we're going to keep our eye on. But hey, beating the defending Super Bowl champions by 17 points in an NFC East rivalry is huge, man. Especially for two rookies in the backfield, two rookies who are trying to get a statement win, trying to build a culture in New York that hasn't been there since Eli Manning. And it definitely seems like there's something brewing in New York. We'll see if Brian Dable can keep it together, keep that locker room uptight, and we'll see if Dart and Scatterbo can keep it rolling.
yeah, man, for sure. And like both of their wins so far this year have been against playoff teams,
Oh,
within
for sure.
the Chargers and the Eagles. Um, I was really, like I said again, I was really impressed with them both sides of the ball. Um, and even though they're a team, that's struggling the past, couple years and whatnot, I still feel like they're a couple pieces away from really being, you know, there to make a push at the playoffs. Um, obviously we know what they know about the players they have on defense. They have a tremendous D line. I really liked the Javon Holland pickup they had to add to that secondary. I think he's been a great player for them this year as well. So if they can just keep stacking these kind of like wins and be like competitive within these um, playoff caliber teams, that's what you're kind of looking for this season if you're New York. See what you can do with what you got with these rookies, and obviously, beating the Eagles like that on prime time, it's really a statement made, and so we'll see what happens next with them. I don't know who's on their schedule next, um, but we'll look out for that later. As far as the Eagles go, like you said, you mentioned Saquon struggling all year so far, which is not ideal if you're an Eagles fan, and very something that's not much of Saquon. Normally he's on pace to have go on this rushing spree. Uh, he almost was the contention for MVP last year. Um, and so can you hear me?
No, you're breaking up bad.
Oh snap! Let me do this. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
We're good.
yeah,
Okay. Cause I'm at a new crib, so I'm at the usual location. So I didn't know if it was the Wi-Fi bugging or not. But all right, like I said, I don't know how much you heard from the last part, but I was mentioning how Saquon is used to like going on these big rushing, game attacks. Last year he was on pace to, he was in those MVP conversations or whatnot. This year's he's really taken a step down, uh, and which is unusual because the Eagles they rely on that running game, and um, if they can get that going as well as their passing game, obviously they're one of the best teams in the league. But so far this season, I really haven't seen a whole lot of the Eagles that makes me believe that they can go back to back, win a Super Bowl. They have flaws, and that's obviously very much not a surprise. Um, you know, there's been talks about Jalen Hurts' arm, whether he can throw downfield. I'm not one to criticize that. I think Jalen Hurts can throw the ball fine, but obviously there's times where that's that he has an issue with at times. Um, I saw earlier uh, John Gruden, legend. He on the preview he was talking about the Giants and the Eagles game. He mentioned how the Eagles have been kind of like have not been blowing teams out. They just been kind of like hanging in there with them, letting the other teams hang on. Haven't really had that statement win yet, um, and that is true. They really haven't had that statement win yet this year to really make people believe they can be true contenders. Not true contenders, but true like uh, I don't know the word for it, but make us believe that they can go back to back and win another Super Bowl with the roster that they have. But the O line obviously is not the same as it was last year. Missing some guys, and then the defense obviously I feel like it's taking a step back as well. Um, yeah, just a lot going on with the Eagles, but I'm still confident that they'll obviously be a playoff team and whatnot. So we'll just see what happens on from there. They really need to they really want to make people believe that they can have a really good chance of winning the Super Bowl. I feel like Saquon Barkley really has to pick it up, and that's like the main reason. That's my main takeaway for them. Get Saquon Barkley going, and you'll be winning a lot of games by a large margin.
for sure, for sure.
All right, and the next topic we're talking about is the Tennessee Titans. A lot happened with them today. Um, last and yesterday when we were coming back from the Panthers game, we were talking about the Tennessee Titans a little bit, and you wanted to talk about it on the pod. We were discussing about what would happen with Brian Callahan's future and whatnot. Well, today he was fired by the Tennessee Titans after a 1-5 start this year with rookie Cam Ward. And I'm gonna let go on about this one. You were very passionate about the talk yesterday.
Yeah, obviously, like you said, I'm very passionate. When it comes to young quarterbacks, I've seen it myself with Bryce Young. You got to put the pieces around him, the right pieces. If you want a kid to succeed, you don't put a kid in there right away and just hope he succeeds with no pieces around him. And obviously, we see that as a testament to Cam Ward. Obviously the kid has talent. We've seen it at Miami. We've seen it at Washington State. The kid can make plays. He was a Heisman Trophy hopeful. Led a Mario Cristobal team to a top tier bowl for an ACC team. Lost a few close games that could have kept them in contention for the playoffs, but that's neither here nor there. We know Cam Ward has talent. It was not a very big, strong draft class for quarterbacks, but he definitely was the number one quarterback coming out. Um, you know, just I was going to name off some of these stats for this kid, man. He's been sacked multiple times. I've seen he's second in sacks allowed in the NFL for any quarterback, and that's not good for a rookie, especially number one pick who's trying to find himself in the NFL. He's 183.5 passing yards per game. That's 31st in the league. He's dead last in passing touchdowns. Four interceptions. He's thrown more interceptions than he has touchdowns. He does have 1,100 passing yards. Like I said, he's second in sacks allowed. Brian Callahan was 4-19 as a head coach. Like I said, he came from Cincinnati. He was offensive coordinator. His dad, Bill, is obviously a very predominant and very well known offensive line coach. And as of right now, he still is the O line coach in Tennessee. We'll see what happens there. It's got to be kind of weird seeing your son get fired and you stay on the staff, but we'll see how that happens. It may shake out where we've seen it in the past. Interim head coaches have let people go and move pieces around. This guy calling plays, this guy's calling plays, whatever. Obviously, they tapped Mike McCoy, the former Chargers head coach, former San Diego Chargers head coach, and actually longtime Panthers assistant. He was a Panthers assistant coach from 2000 2008 under John Fox. Um, he coached quarterbacks, wide receivers. He was a senior assistant, whatever. He's a very well-known offensive coach around the league. Obviously, was the head coach of the San Diego Chargers, like I said, and he was currently serving as a senior offensive assistant. And now he will be the new interim coach for the Tennessee Titans. We'll see who calls plays. Obviously, Brian Callahan was the offensive play caller, as far as I know. So we'll see if he still calls plays. We'll see if the defensive staff stays intact. We'll see if there's any movement on the offensive staff. Like I said, we've seen it in the past. Coaches have been moved around. Um, obviously when Steve Wilkes took over for us, offensive coordinator was fired, things like that happen. People move around, people are changed. Obviously, interim coach is, especially early in the season, you're only 6 weeks in, you have 11 more games to go. Obviously Mike McCoy's a former head coach, and that's why they tapped him as the head coach. They're not looking to just tank. You don't tank. I don't think they're looking to tank right now. I think they're looking to just try to find a little footing, maybe a little hope to go into next season. Obviously, I don't think they make the playoffs. 1-5 through 6 games, and here's some of the Titans' offensive stats. Let's just point these out since Brian Callahan was the guy. They thought he was the guy at least. 31st in points per game, 13.8 points per game. They're 31st in passing yards per game. That's 150.5. They're 31st in rushing yards per game, 81.8. That's with Tony Pollard in the backfield and Ty J. Spears. They're 32nd in touchdowns. They only have six. They're 32nd in yards per play, 3.9. They only are average 4 yards per play, and they are fourth worst in the league in turnovers per game, almost averaging 2 turnovers a game. It's just ridiculous, man. The defense doesn't look bad. Like you look at the defensive stats. Obviously, defense is they have the 13th best pass defense. They're fifth in takeaways this year. Obviously, the rush defense is 25th in the league, but still 13th in passing defense in a passing predominant league, 25th in rushing defense, fifth in takeaways. But obviously, there's no help on offense. Brian Callahan was brought in to be an offensive guy. You fired Mike Vrabel. You fired Mike Vrabel, who's now in New England, 4-2, and brings Drake May into Tennessee this week. That's going to be one heck of a reunion, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But like I said, we know it very well. When you try to put a rookie quarterback around a team that has been stabbed over and over again, and you try to put band-aids on a stab wound, it doesn't work. You try to bring in these old veterans who have done well in the past, like the Panthers did with DJ Chark. We tried to bring in Deontay Johnson at one time. You know, you bring in all these guys and you think your team's going to be well. You try to bring in Tyler Lockett, you bring in Calvin Ridley, you have Tony Pollard in the backfield, you have a banged up O line, and you're putting your rookie quarterback in that situation. Like I said yesterday, you look at the teams that are producing well in the NFL today, and they have drafted their players. Jalen Hurts drafted by the Eagles. Patrick Mahomes drafted by the Chiefs. Travis Kelsey drafted by the Chiefs. These players are homegrown kids who have been built in this system since day one. There's, like we said, we can only name off two guys who are still on that team, who's on that team that are homegrown drafted players. That's Jeffrey Simmons, the D lineman, and Cam Ward, who's the number one quarterback and the quarterback number one this year. So what I'm looking for is the Titans have to identify what is their biggest problem. You fired two coaches, you fired two GMs in the last 3 years. So what philosophy? What is the owner thinking in Tennessee right now? He fires his head coach. The obviously the source came out and said that they were looking to not fire Brian Callahan until the end of the year. They were going to wait until the end of the year, evaluate, and then make a decision then. But obviously, the train fell off the tracks so far that they couldn't get it back on the tracks. So Brian Callahan has to be fired in week 6. They're 1-5. He's 4-19 overall as a head coach. And now you tap a former head coach and Mike McCoy, who you're trying to just build a culture with, but he's probably going to be out at the end of the year too, unless he does something miraculous and he gets the head job for long term. So with your rookie quarterback, obviously we saw it in Carolina. Frank Wright was fired in about week 12, week 13 of Bryce Young's rookie year. Um, Bryce Young went through multiple play callers. You do not want to see Cam Ward do that. Obviously, I think we'll talk about it later, but I think we've lucked out with Dave Canales. I think Dave Canales is a long-term head coach for the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, that could change, but as of now, how we look at it, based on the end of the year last year and the start of this year, I think Dave Canales can have a good future in Carolina if things keep rolling the way it is. But who's your next head coach? That's the biggest question. Names will fly around. Obviously, me and you know a guy that I really like and you like as well. I think John Gruden is obviously got to be on everybody's mind come the offseason, no matter who has a head coach opening. He's a Super Bowl winning head coach. I think he's the only coach to ever be traded for. He knows ball more than anybody. He hosts college quarterbacks every year. He's a very respected coach who people believe in. People can get in his system and they believe in his system. Obviously, all the stuff went down with the NFL, and the NFL is losing in the courts over it. He's not going to be able to be suspended or anything by the NFL. What are they going to do? They're going to fire him again for something that's already happened and they're in the courts about. What he said in the emails are wrong. I'm going to say that right now. What he said is very wrong and insensitive, but the man can coach football. We know that. We know he can coach football. We know he can. He's a culture builder. Players respect him. Players from 20 years ago still talk about John Gruden today. They still reach out to him. They still talk very heavily of him. But if it's not him, who is it? Who is the number one guy on the market? Obviously, Ben Johnson went off the market last year. He was the number one guy for many years. He's in Chicago now. They seem to be having a good amount of success. With Caleb Williams as a second year quarterback. So when Cam Ward becomes a second year quarterback next year, you're going to have to build a team. You're going to have to build a team around a new head coach and a rookie and a second year quarterback who's struggling in his first year because his head coach got fired. So what is your mentality? Do you look for a defense coach? Do you look for an offensive coach? I think you have to look for an offensive coach. Your defense doesn't look too bad. I think you have some good pieces on defense. You have L'Jarius Sneed. You have Jeffrey Simmons. You have Xavier Woods, not a bad safety. I think he had struggling parts in Carolina, but he wasn't a bad safety. You have the pieces around there that can like kind of fit and mold if you can find the right places for him and the right coach for him. But I think it has to be an offensive coach. And who's that offensive coach? Like I said, John Gruden might be that. Um, I don't really know who the top guy is going to be. Obviously, I think the Bucks offensive coordinator is probably going to get a lot of the talk. Liam Cohn and Dave Canales both were offensive coordinators in Tampa Bay and have had successful years so far this year in their respective places. So it could be somebody from there. It could be somebody from the Lions. It could be, you know, I can't really think of any names off the top of my head. I don't think this is the last firing. That's for sure. I think there'll be more firings to come. I think the Dolphins fire Mike McDaniel. Um, I think that Aaron Glenn could possibly be fired year one, just depending on what happens over in New York. Um, yeah, I mean, it's
You know,
going to
I've
be a
heard
very
no, sorry. I was just gonna say I heard somebody say like they could potentially look at like Matt Nagy or something.
Matt Nagy. Yeah, if you're looking at Matt Nagy as your next head coach, I think we've officially lucked out on how many people could be available because I'd rather take the third worst offensive coordinator in the NFL right now than take Matt Nagy as a head coach again. I've seen that one time. I've seen that movie, and I know Chicago Bears fans have seen that movie, and they would probably very strongly disagree. And you want Matt Nagy? If you went from Brian Callahan to Matt Nagy, it's like going from, like you said, a coughing baby to a coughing baby. That's two stick babies. I'm not for it, man. You might get worse. I mean, honestly, you might get worse. Matt Nagy,
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Nagy might be better, but Obviously we've seen offensive coordinators under Andy Reid. Andy Reid calls the plays. Their offensive coordinator scheme. Obviously, there's been one that everybody wanted as a head coach, and now he's nowhere to be found. And his name happens to be Eric Bieniemy. I couldn't tell you where that guy is right now, or who he's coaching for, or where he's at. But everybody said, "Oh, Eric Bieniemy needs to be a head coach. Needs to be a head coach. Needs to be a head coach." He takes over play calling duties by himself, and Washington falls apart. He goes to UCLA and gets fired. The guy just, I don't know if he's a good coach or he just had a great quarterback ahead of him and a guy that could really call plays in Andy Reid. So, it's going to be interesting to see. I think there's going to be a lot of offensive coordinators, young offensive coordinators who could be people look at. If we still succeed, I'm not saying I'm not. This might sound crazy, but if we keep succeeding and we keep moving the pieces along in Carolina, I think in a few years, Brad Idzik is going to be somebody people start looking at. A young 30-something-year-old coach who's been very respected around the league. Has coached in good systems. Has coached under Dave Canales. They're really good friends, so obviously they run the same stuff. Um, if he can turn around Bryce Young, people below him are going to be definitely called upon to be offensive coordinators and get promotions at other teams. So we'll see. But I feel like I said I was passionate yesterday, and I feel I'm sorry for talking for so long, but you know I really feel bad for Cam Ward, man. I do. We've seen it in Carolina. We've seen a rookie quarterback kind of just feel like his career is getting torn apart year one. It sucks, man. It sucks to see a kid that was so high and so energetic in college just seem to lay his head low in the NFL because he doesn't have the pieces around him. He doesn't have the support system. So, I'm wishing Cam Ward all the best. He's a very, you really don't hear much out of Cam Ward. He's not one that goes out in these media interviews and says crazy stuff, and he doesn't really go on social media and post a lot. He's a quiet guy who really works hard. You definitely seen it in the off-season videos. I've seen it. He really wants it. He's a kid who works hard. He wants to be good. I think he wants to be a good quarterback in the NFL. Obviously, going to being the number one pick means you're going to a bad team unless a good team trades up for the number one pick. You're going to a bad team, the worst team the year before. So it's not easy. It's not. You don't get many C.J. Strouds who just go in there and just dominate. You don't get many of those guys. So it's got to be somebody who can really develop them. Obviously, we've seen Trevor Lawrence fall off and get picked back up by Liam Cohn. We saw Bryce Young fall apart, and Dave Canales seems to be picking him back up last year into this year. So who's the guy who can pick Cam Ward up and say, you know what, buddy, I got you? Same thing with Drake May. Gerard Mayo didn't really do well with him. Mike Vrabel comes in, picks him up there 4-2. Who's that guy who can come in and be a culture builder and say, look, hey, I know you've been down. I know you've been beat up. I know you've been in a tough spot, but I got your back. I'm your head coach now. I'm going to lead this team with you. We're going to do it together. We're going to lead this team. We're going to build something that the fans can be proud of. The NFL can look at it and be like, hey, we're proud of that team. They really faced adversity and they came out of it with their heads held high. And that's what I want to see out of Cam Ward. I don't want to see a kid fail. Never want to see a kid like that fail. He obviously is a very talented guy. When you've only thrown 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions and 31st in pass yards per game and you're second in sacks allowed, that's tough for a rookie quarterback. Your confidence kind of blew apart. And I don't know. I keep running around. But like I said yesterday, I was very passionate about this, man. I know how it is because I've seen it as a fan. I've seen it as a fan of the Panthers. So, I hate to see that kid just sit there and rot and be 1-5. And he's always picking himself off the turf or off the ground because he's on the ground all the time. His offensive line don't block. I mean, I saw a clip yesterday. He fumbled in the red zone because there was 2 free rushers. As soon as the ball got in his hand on a shotgun snap, there was 2 defenders right there to tackle him. So, I mean, what can the kid do? He can't even read the defense or get the ball in his hands to make his 3-step drop or anything, and he already has pressure in his face, and he's picking himself off the grass because he's sacked again. So, you got to be able to help a kid out. You got to be able to, make him feel confident in himself, make him feel like he can produce something in that city and that team, and I just hope the next head coach or even Mike McCoy, maybe Mike McCoy can do it. I hope so. I hope somebody can just get in his ear and say, hey, we got you. This team has you. The players have you. Maybe a player only meeting, whatever it is. But I'm gonna keep up with Cam Ward. I'm gonna keep rooting for the kid. I think he's a baller, man. I think he can be really good. I think he's the only quarterback out of this past draft class that's going to be really well. I think Dylan Gabriel could be good. we'll see how that goes in Cleveland. Obviously, that's a different topic, but I'm rooting for Cam Ward, and I hope he does very well.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the coffin, pretty much, on everything. I have a couple points. First thing, unfortunately for Cam Ward and the Titans, I think they're going to be picking number one or number two in the draft
Yeah.
this year. Just depends on how the Jets do, but I think that's kind of what their projection is at
Well,
going going for this year. What you
never
saying?
mind. Never mind. I was thinking about a certain guy, but he is not eligible to come out of college yet. So
Oh, who is it? Oh, Jeremiah. Who?
yeah, yeah, you're right.
Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
thinking that's a clear cut number one guy. If you can get that kind of guy for Cam Ward to throw to, I think you can fix the other problems. You can obviously we've seen it in Carolina. You can go out in free agency and get offensive linemen. We got Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis. Um, you can go out and get those guys out of free agency and then build up an offensive line. But wide receiver ones are hard to come by. And Jeremiah Smith is going to be a dang good wide receiver one come time for him to go to the NFL. That's for sure.
oh yeah. And that's actually my other point. This offseason, you got to look to get him a wide receiver one.
For
Calvin
sure.
Ridley's not going to cut it. Uh,
Yeah,
their current wide receiver core is not very good, like you said. So obviously, you need to have that connection with your quarterback. You need to get him, a solid target that you can help build that, connection. Like, like with Bryce Young, for example, we finally got him a number one receiver. They've had, a good connection with, in the offseason and continuing now. So, if you can get Cam Ward, someone like that, I feel like that'll really boost up his confidence and give Tennessee a really solid playmaker alongside him. So if Tennessee can do that this offseason, I think they're slow steps. That's a couple steps ahead right there. Um,
for sure.
but yeah, man, just this kind of just reminds me of just like a rinse to repeat of Bryce Young's rookie year. It's pretty much what
For
it was,
sure.
except Brian Callahan got fired. You know, almost 7 games early, but
Yeah.
but um, I don't know who the Titans play next week. Uh,
Uh, they play the Patriots. They play Mike Vrabel and the Patriots.
oh yeah, they should that. So that's gonna be hard. That's gonna be another test for Cam Ward.
Give me the Titans in an upset. Give me the Titans in an
No
upset.
shot. No
Go
shot, dude.
go Cam Ward, baby. Let's do it.
Hey, I'm all for upsets, but that Patriots defense is no joke. So
For sure. For sure. For sure.
it's gonna be really hard regardless. But we just gotta look. You just gotta look and continue on this year. The season's already at lost cost for them. There's really nothing to be excited about right now this season if you're a Titans fan. Just hopefully Cam Moore doesn't get killed out there. That's the only thing you hope for if you're a
Yeah.
Titans fan and
If you
a
if you
fan in
fire
general.
if you fire your coach anytime during a year, you kind of you know wrote the ship off that of your season. You kind of just expect your season to be done, especially if you're 1-5. Obviously all the statisticians out there would know, but I don't know if any 1-5 teams have made the playoffs after starting 1-5. I doubt it. If there has been, it's been many, and there's not going to be many more, especially when you're dead last in every significant category in offense, and you've fired your offensive coordinator and head coach. So, like you said, they're probably going to be picking top three somewhere. If something, maybe a win or two here, maybe get them out of 1-2, but they're going to be picking top three, and it's just like we always say to people, it's mock draft season, Titans fans, mock draft season. Get your books out, get your magazines out, watch some college football on Saturday, figure out who you like, and then start spamming that thing on Twitter. And hopefully the GM will look at it and say, "Wow, that's the guy we need." Because every other fan in the NFL thinks that's how it works. If you just spam a guy's name on Twitter, abracadabra, the GM sees it and picks him. So y'all do that and see what happens. Just go watch some college football, figure out who you like, figure out who the dog is on every team. Go find you a wide receiver out there who has eligibility to get in the draft. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith don't, so don't watch Ohio State games. Um, but yeah, find you a guy you like, ride him the rest of the way. Follow him on Instagram, like all his posts, tell him to come to Tennessee, and then hopefully come April 20 something, his name's called on draft night. That's the only thing you can hang your hat on, that's for sure, because you're not going to hang your hat on anything going to the playoffs. You're 1-5. Just hope to win about 3 games this year, like last year, and pick again at number one. So Music City's rocking, no doubt. Hopefully the Memphis Grizzlies do better for the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, facts. Who do you? I got a question for you. Who do you think is the? Who do you think is the clear cut number one in this draft, or do you think there's any so far?
I don't think there's any clear cut number one right now.
You don't think
It
so?
seems like everybody who's like put a mock draft out, it's a different guy. It's either one of the defensive linemen from Clemson, or it's maybe Carson Beck as quarterback. But I mean, I don't know. Like it depends on who's number one. Like if the Titans are number one, they're not going to pick a quarterback, obviously, because they have their franchise quarterback in Cam Ward. So you can always use help on defense if you're going to go out in free agency and get the wide receivers and offensive linemen. But if there's a wide receiver one type player like Tyrone McMillan was maybe at number one or number two, I'd take him. Obviously, like I said, you can go to free agency and overpay for offensive linemen. I think we overpaid maybe a little bit on Robert Hunt. 20 million a year is a lot. He's like one of the top five highest paid offensive linemen, but he backs it up. So maybe it's not overpay. Um, but you can go pay a lot of money for those guys and just hope that an offensive line coach helps him and the scheme's right. But the first things first is you got to figure out who your head coach is going to be. You can't do anything without knowing who your head coach is going to be. So we'll definitely keep an eye. We'll keep an eye on rumors, and maybe every week we can update throughout the year. If more coaching jobs come available, we'll do a segment every week called the Coaching Carousel, and we'll kind of like update people on rumors we hear and the names we hear. I think it'd be pretty cool for people to check out and listen to. We'll give our takes on who we think should be the head coach, and then we'll just follow it up in the offseason and see who is the head coach.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I like that idea. I'm down with that. Uh, do you? I was actually looking, and I think like maybe in terms of wide receiver, I don't know if he's the clear cut number one, but I think he's a first round talent, but or maybe late second, or no early second. I think a guy like Carnell Tate. I'm
Yeah,
really impressed with
I
him.
just don't know if you take Carnell Tate that early.
Not like
Um,
number one or two, not nothing like that.
yeah,
But
unless he just absolutely goes insane the rest of the year. But um, I mean, if he falls to like, if they have a second round draft pick, I don't know what their draft capital is, but if they have like the second round pick early and it's like the first or second pick in the second round, and he's like maybe going to be talked about getting picked late first round, I'd trade back in the first round and take whoever you want early, and then take Carnell Tate and just help out your wide receiver group, and then see if you can get some out of free agency or a trade or something. Um, obviously their general manager comes from the Chiefs. He's the Chiefs offensive old assistant GM, so he knows what to look for in talent wise. So hopefully him and the new head coach can figure out what they want to do, where they want to pick out, which position and where, if it's free agency, if it's a draft, if it's a trade. Just figure out what you want to do for each, category. And obviously when the off season comes around and we do our off season pods, we'll talk about, what they're looking for and where they're looking at it. But, I'm definitely going to keep up with the Titans over the next few weeks. First head coach down this year fired is Brian Callahan, and I think there's going to be more to come. I don't think he's the last one, that's for sure.
when do you think Aaron Glenn's gonna get fired if they continue to lose?
He might get fired if we beat the Jets this weekend.
You think so?
That's my hot take. He might. They might think about it. I don't know. It's hard for first year head coaches. Obviously, we saw it. We saw David Tepper was very quick trigger and happy to fire coaches if need be, and he still let Frank Wright get like 13 games. But Frank Wright also was a former head coach, so you kind of like think that maybe a former head coach can turn it around somewhere in the middle of the season. Obviously, Aaron Glenn's a first time head coach, but start 0-7 and your team is like horrible in every category, like offense and defense. Like they have negative net passing yards yesterday. Like we were keeping up with it, and at the 2 minute warning, I think Justin Fields had maybe 10 yards passing. So
Yeah.
like Garrett Wilson's not getting involved. Brees Hall can barely get anything going. You know, Go ahead. I'm
Garrett
sorry.
Wil- Garrett Wilson's also out this week, by the way, too.
Is he really?
Yeah, he'll be missing a couple weeks. He has like an injury.
Yeah, yeah. Aaron Glenn might be on his way out. I'll be honest with
Which I didn't even
you.
know Garrett
Him,
Wilson got injured in the game.
I didn't think of that either. But I think the next three head coaches to get fired if things don't turn around is Mike McDaniel in Miami, Aaron Glenn in New York, and I think this may surprise people, but I don't think it surprises me and you. Is Zach Taylor in Cincinnati? I think those three are the next three head coaches fired if things don't turn around. After that, I don't. I'm actually going to take. I'm going to actually take. I keep a tab in my head of like the hot seat guys or whatever. For now, I'm going to say that Brian Dable has eased himself off the hot seat a little bit, just a little bit. I don't think he's eased off of it completely, but he has eased himself off the hot seat a little bit, just because I think you know Giants front office and ownership sees that maybe they can do something, especially without your wide receiver one not playing, and you're still winning games against the Super Bowl champions. So I definitely think that um, the Dable's not on the hot seat as much as the other three I named off are. But we could have 4 or 5 coach openings in the off season, which is crazy. But it could be
Yeah,
even more. I don't know who else could be fired. You never know what could happen to anybody. The NFL is a ever changing world, just like college football is. We saw with James Franklin. It's an ever changing world. You never know who's going to be fired on a week to week basis. You got to win games in the NFL. That's what it's all about. You got to win games. If you can't win games, you ain't going to keep your job. And most owners nowadays are happy about wanting to just get people out of there because there's maybe an offensive coordinator somewhere who's young who can just help you out right away. So um, we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see over the next few weeks who stays on and who goes. But like I said, we'll update people as the weeks go on.
yeah. Also, bro, Mike McDaniel has literally overstayed his visit in Miami. I don't know how he's still employed, how he's
Yeah,
still
I
there
think
all
they're
these
just.
years.
I think they're running off of his like aura farming or whatever, dude. I think he just aura farms all the time, and they love that stuff. They think it's cool to get media attention or something because he is not a good coach. That guy is not good at all. I
Yeah,
mean, garbage, garbage. I wouldn't employ him. He could be a good
yeah,
offensive coordinator somewhere, I think, but he's not a good head coach.
yeah. Head coach, nah, but yeah. All right, next topic on the list today: Kansas City Chiefs versus the Detroit Lions last night on Sunday Night Football. Um, I had a parlay rider on this game as well. This game didn't hit, by the way. I
God,
only I only had the Rico Dowdle touchdown, and then the nothing else hit in this game. I had Patrick Mahomes like 38 pass attempts. Jameer Gibbs did hit. I had him over 60 something rushing. Worthy to have 65 yards receiving, and Montgomery to get a touchdown. None of those hit, but it's whatever. Back to the game though. Um, Chiefs, I think they're finding their rhythm offensively. I think they're slowly getting back into what they, uh, what we're used to seeing them be. Kelsey had a pretty good game. He was finding the soft spots in the zones pretty well yesterday. Even after the catch, he was moving pretty well. Mahomes is very accurate throughout the night. Obviously, you know what Mahomes can do. He's Patrick Mahomes. And then their defense also played very well against this high-powered Detroit Lions offense. Um, I thought Kansas City at Arrowhead. This was, kind of like a I thought it was going to be a harder game than obviously than like most people anticipated it would be, but it really didn't feel like close at all during the game because as you're watching the game, they were like methodically like going down the field. Uh, Mahomes was hitting the quick passes, breaking down the defense. You didn't really have the long balls, long deep balls that you had like to Tyquan Thornton or anything like that. The past couple games. So it's kind of like those intermediate catches and then catches out, then yards after the catch that really helped them in this game. Um, so that was something, that Chiefs fans, like to see from there. Defensively, Spags had another great game. I mentioned on the podcast, while back. I think it was like the second episode or whatnot. I was like questioning Spags and how his defense was playing, but they've been picking it up very well over the past couple number of weeks, and so that's very good to see, especially against his defense. Give him a pat on the back for that. Um, Chris Jones played very well on the interior line like always. Um, I thought Drew Tranquil and Chanel, their linebackers, played well, um, covering the field. So a very overall great game for the Chiefs. Going back to 3-3 on the year, improving to 500 after a loss last week to Jacksonville, and then they also get Rasheed Rice back this week. So against the Raiders, um, so that's so now that they're kind of like having their receivers full healthy now and back in the lineup, kind of just adds more firepower. I'm really excited how they use Rasheed Rice in this offense. What does Tyquan Thornton do? Is he gonna get limited snaps now, even though he was playing very well without Rice? So I'm kind of curious to see what they do offensively now with that. Are they gonna uh, does this lead to deep shots for Worthy to now that they have Rasheed Rice back? So we'll see. I think they're gonna be very dangerous on offense, way better than what they were, obviously now. Um, so that's that for the Chiefs. In terms of the Lions, I thought um, Kansas City secondary played well, holding Amon-Ra St. Brown to, you know, limited yards. Um, really, there wasn't a lot of big plays regarding him. Really, just the short, quick passes, which obviously, bound to give up to him. But um, Jamison Williams, I thought he had a good game. Uh, Obviously, he's their big deep threat, but they really used him on those sweeps and those short passes as well to get him involved. I think he had a hurdle in this game as well, which was pretty good, pretty nice. Um, and they also had this one play where it cost them a touchdown. It was early in the game. They ran this like on fourth and goal. It was a direct snap to Dave Montgomery, and they threw it to Jared Goff on to the left side, but he was still in motion while he caught the ball, so it was illegal uh, shift or legal shift or motion or whatever. So the play was like dead or whatever. So that kind of cost them 7 points right there, and they had to settle for three. So that's just something to pick up right there. But overall, I thought the Chiefs really played well, dominated the whole game. I feel like that's all my take on that.
For sure, for sure. I think you hit it all, right on the head. I think it was a good quarterback battle last night. Goff 23 for 29, 203 and two touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes 22 for 30, 257 and three touchdowns. One on the ground after 10 carries for 32 yards. Like you said, Patrick Mahomes just seems to get better and better every week, and that's a scary sight considering that's a three-time Super Bowl winning quarterback who can just turn it on at any time. Especially against the Lions, who have looked pretty good over the last few weeks. Um, Kelsey looked pretty good last night, 6 or 7, 78 yards. Hollywood Brown, 4 catches, 2 touchdowns, 45 yards. 6 red zone trips for the Chiefs. Man, that's impressive. Get inside the 20-yard line 6 times, have 355 total yards, and convert half of your third downs is it's pretty impressive. That's just a testament to Andy Reid and Patrick Holmes. Like you said, they started pretty slow this year. They needed some juice. They needed a little bit of energy in Kansas City, and Patrick Mahomes definitely brought that back. Like you said, it's going to be a loaded wide receiver room when Rasheed Rice comes back this week. You got Tyquan Thornton, Travis Kelsey, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith, um, and now Rasheed Rice. So what do you do? Do you play somebody less snaps? I think everybody's produced pretty well. But obviously, Rasheed Rice last year looked like a number a wide receiver one, wide receiver two kind of guy. He's a guy Patrick Mahomes liked very much. Only played like 2 snaps this year, and he didn't play any snaps this year. He's been suspended the whole time for the driving incident. Um, So we'll see what happens. Is he the same self from last year? And everybody's in game form. Everybody's played 6 games. So does he get in and just start turning up and going crazy like he did last year? Who knows? I think it's gonna be something we're gonna keep an eye on. It's a stacked wide receiver room based on what people have looked like the past few weeks. Does anybody get cut? Does anybody get moved? Does anybody get less playing time? You kind of have a good crew there, a good team, a good core wide receivers who are primarily young to choose from. So we'll see what Andy Reid does, what his decision is in that part. Um, you know, Juju Smith and Brian Branch got in a little bit of a scuffle last night after the game. Chiefs are in victory formation, and Juju definitely, jawing his mouth to Brian Branch. Brian Branch didn't like it, so he came over and, he got an altercation, fought. Patrick Mahomes got in the bottom of the pile. Branch has been suspended 1 game without pay. He obviously, like he said, he will appeal it and try to see if they can get it overturned or just turn it to a fine or whatnot. But maybe a 1 game suspension with pay. We'll see if that happens. But the Lions are an up and down team. We talk about the Chiefs a lot, but the Lions are an up and down team. 1 week they're up on a high rise, putting up 400, 500 yards offense, and next week they're only putting up 290, and they're struggling to score 17 points. So, um, 5 for 11 on third down. Golf only threw for 200 yards. Only 6 incompletions, but like you said, Amon-Ra St. Brown kept under tabs. Um, you know, Rushing yards under 100 combined. So Montgomery and Gibbs were kept under tabs pretty well. Now you're going to lose one of your star defensive DBs with Brian Branch out for 1 game unless something happens with the appeal. So, Lions that Dan Campbell is definitely a good coach. He's definitely a culture builder, a guy that the players respect. But right now, they're just in that kind of weird spot as a team. They kind of can win the games they should win, but they can't win the games that are big time games right now. So definitely got to keep an eye on the Lions over the next few weeks and see what they can do, what Goff can do, and that two-headed monster in the backfield. We'll see if Branch gets his game overturned. Keep updated on Twitter. We'll update you on that one. Um, but yeah, it's I'm very impressed with Kansas City and Andy Reid. They started very slow this year. It kind of surprised us. You really don't see Kansas City Chiefs start out like that. You don't really see a team like that who's won multiple Super Bowls over the last few years do that. So to see Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and all them kind of get back on the right foot and is pretty impressive to see and just a testament to what those guys are and how they are as football players in the NFL.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier in the other podcast. Like, in my opinion, the Chiefs are still my Super Bowl favorites to go there. Doesn't matter what they do in the regular season, as long as they're in the playoffs. You know, I'm not doubting them 1 second. So they're still my Super Bowl favorites. Um, which is just crazy to say considering how successful they've been in the playoffs since 2018. So there's that. I have a couple other points. The Detroit Lions, they're 0-2 against teams with a 500 record this year. Uh,
Wow.
but all of their wins have been against teams below that. They played the Ravens, who were depleted with injury at that game. They played the Cleveland Browns, who are obviously very bad this year. They played the Chicago Bears, who are the Bears. Nothing really there. But yeah, 0-2 against teams with a 500 record. So that's just something that I thought was there. And then going back to the Brian Branch and the Juju Smith-Schuster scuffle, um, I think it was like during the 3 minute mark, Juju Smith-Schuster was like blocking on a play, and he hit him on an illegal like blindside block, uh, right there. So that kind of like triggered Brian Branch's response after the game, post game. So I think they'll probably look at that, try to see what happens there. But that's just kind of what I think started the fight. And then my
Yeah.
third point, the Chiefs. You said they had 6 red zone trips.
Yes.
Well, they scored 4 times in the red zone, so 4 out of 6 in the
Wow.
red zone. last night with the Patrick Mahomes run, two from Hollywood Brown, and then the one from Xavier Worthy. So if you can score consistently in the red zone, you're gonna do very well. Uh,
Oh, for sure, for sure.
doesn't matter who you are. So just a couple takeaways there. I think they've always been a pretty good red zone team. Always have different schemes drawn up. You never know what they're going to do with Andy Reid and his play calling. So
Yeah,
always got to
right.
be ready for that. Especially with all the motions they do with Worthy in the red zone. Just a lot to keep up for a defense.
It is. And now we're Rasheed Rice back is going to be even more harder to keep up with, I think,
Yeah. So that's a game that I'm going to be keeping up with next this
for
week
sure.
against the Raiders. See how they play on that. Um, and then in terms of our next subjects, uh, Cowboys taking on the Carolina Panthers, going on the road. Uh, both teams looking for to continue their winning ways, with the Cowboys beating the Jets in dominant fashion last week, and then Carolina coming back 17-0 against the Miami Dolphins. I know you have a lot to say on this game, so I'm gonna let you take the helm and go on first.
Yeah, man. Dude, it feels awesome. I'm not gonna lie, it feels amazing. Uh, like I said before we came on here, this is the first time we're 500 since November 14th, 2021. Almost 4 years ago was the last time we're 500. It was when we were 4-5 going into week 10, to the 10th game of the season, and it was Cam Newton's return as quarterback of the Carolina Panthers, and we beat the Arizona Cardinals to go 5-5. Obviously, beat them in dominant fashion. They were 8-1 or 9-1 at the time, I want to say.
Yeah,
We beat them 34-10 in Arizona. So like, dude, this feels awesome, man. Like we were saying yesterday, and be 500. For the first time in almost 4 years, it's an awesome feeling. We've been through the rough parts, man. We've been through the highs, we've been through the lows, man. It's just, man, we talk about it every year in the off season. We're like, man, this could be a good year for us. This could be a good year for us. And then we start 1-6, 1-7, and we're in that mock drafts. We're in that mock draft season where doing mock drafts in week 8, week 9, and we're trying to figure out who the guy is coming into April. And right now we don't have to do that. We don't have to pull up mock drafts. We don't have to pull up, you know, draft prospects, man. We're figuring out, okay, can we make a move for somebody at the trade deadline? Can we, find a free agent that can help us in O line depth or secondary depth or stuff like that, man? And it's such an awesome feeling as a fan, man. We this ain't our first year of being Panther fans. Obviously, you have the NFC Championship hat on. We've been to games since we were little boys. Like, it's just, we've been through year after year of high Panther fandom, and your head's laying low first quarter of every game. We've been through that stuff, man. So just to walk out of Bank of America Stadium for the third time this year, this is your second time walking out of it, but my third time walking out of it, and hearing those key pounding chants, hearing the fans, seeing the fans smiling and talking to each other and saying, high fiving and stuff. It's a family, man. Charlotte and the Carolina Panthers is just a family, man. And I love everybody I've met. I've met multiple PSL owners. Obviously, we sat in front of some, at the game yesterday. It's like a tight knit community. We don't know each other outside of Carolina Panther football, but for them 3 or 4 hours on a Sunday, we're like we're like brothers. We're like blood brothers who've known each other for all our lives. So it's awesome, man. It's awesome to just celebrate with those people and just have so much fun and just get to sit in that stadium. I've been a PS owner. It's my third year as being a PSL owner, and to be able to sit in that stadium and just smile and just have a good time watching a Panther game, it feels so rewarding. It feels like all my years of being a fan are paying off. Like, obviously it's only week 6, and obviously we're only 500, and we're still 2 games behind first place in the NFC South. And we some people can say we haven't beat the most tough teams, but they can say whatever they want on Twitter. We've been through the rough parts. We've been through the fire. We've been through it, man. We know what it's like. So, you know, I don't care if we beat the 0-6 Jets every week. I'm celebrating, man, because this feels awesome, man. It feels awesome to win no matter who you beat. Um, so I just wanted to say that, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who's at the games, man. It feels so awesome to finally get back to this point. We have a chance to have a winning record after Sunday, and it's a very winnable game, and it's a great game to have because it's on the road. It's something Bryce Young needs. Bryce Young only has one win on the road in his 3 year career as a Carolina Panther quarterback. He needs this road win. He needs it bad. He needs it really bad, and I hope he gets it, man. I'm rooting for the kids so bad. Um, we'll be obviously watching it, in our respective homes, but obviously we'll be texting during it. We'll keep everybody updated on Twitter. But man, dude, it feels awesome, man. It feels like we have a chance to do something special in Carolina, man. Um, obviously we're coming for the NFC South title, so all the Bucks fans out there, you just watch out. We still have to play out 2 times this year. Um, you know, y'all know y'all have a target on your back, and the Carolina Panthers are coming for you. I know you haven't heard that in a while. You haven't heard that since Tom Brady and Steve Wilkes, but trust me when I say we're coming for the NFC South title. It's been a long time. It's been a long time, but when we do, we're buying those shirts, we're buying the hats, we're buying the gear.
Yeah.
We'll be we'll be at the home playoff game. We'll be there ready to cheer on our guys. So just keep an eye on us. We're here, man. It's only week 6. We got 11 more games to go. 11 more exciting games. It's awesome to know that you can, every week come into every week ready for Sunday because you know your team is going to do your team has a chance. Your team has a chance to win, to compete. So that always feels good, man. I just want to get off my chest. I'll get into the stats now. I know everybody's waiting on. They're not waiting to hear me, rant about it. But just,
Uh,
all the NFL fans out there know how it is, man. It feels so amazing, man. It's just awesome feeling. And I couldn't be more happy and proud of the Carolina Panthers, man. Proud of everybody from David Tepper to Dan Morgan to Brant Tillis to Dave Canales and Bryce Young and even the practice squad guys, Hendon Hooker and all those guys. The guys who grind every day at the Carolina Panthers facility to get better. The guys who are doing everything in their power to make sure the Carolina Panthers are respected and are a team that can compete week in and week out. Shout out to all those people. I'm very proud of y'all. The fans see it. We love y'all. We're rooting for y'all. We got your back no matter what. The times may get tough, but like that meme with that old man's holding the umbrella. When the rain's coming down, we always got y'all's backs, man. We're always gonna root for y'all. We're always gonna pick you up. Well, no matter our support never ends. So just shout out to the Panthers, man. I'm so happy and I'm so proud of them. To win a game like this, a tough game against a Dallas team who's trying to build something as well. It's a statement win for Dave Canales. Bryce Young, obviously 17 for 25, 199 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 of them in Tedero and Millen. Rico Dowdle, man. Rico Dowdle, an amazing free agent pickup from Dan Morgan and the crew. 30 carries, 183 rushing yards, 4 receptions, 56 receiving yards, and a touchdown through the air. 239 scrimmage yards. If I'm not mistaken, he is the first player to have back-to-back 200-plus scrimmage yard games since like the 1970s. So that's just insane, man. Rico Dowdle, he called out his former team, the Dallas Cowboys. He said, "Buckle up, I'm coming for you." He said the words on Sunday, and he backed them up a week later yesterday. Just awesome, awesome, awesome from our guys. 4 red zone trips for us. Obviously, we only came out with 2 of them. One of the red zone trips was the game-winning field goal by Ryan Fitzgerald, which we could have scored on. We just had to slow up and not score and give Dallas the ball back. T-Mac, 2 touchdowns. He hadn't had any coming into this week. We were waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. We knew he was due for one, but he got 2 of them. T-Mac has 2 on the board now. Super proud of him. The Shout out to Dave Canales, Brad Isaac, the offensive staff. Shout out to them. We outgained Dallas by 110 yards. That's so impressive, man. To outgain a team by triple digits is always, 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 always very impressive. It's always something you can hang your hat on. On the other side, Dak Prescott, 25 for 34, 261 passing yards and 3 touchdowns as well. So 3 touchdowns from both quarterbacks. But the name of the game is Mike Jackson. For
wow.
every exciting thing you can say and all the happy things you can say for a team, there's always something you can criticize. And the one person you can criticize this week is Mike Jackson. Obviously, he's looked well over the past few weeks, but George Pickens had his number yesterday. 9 receptions, 168 yards, and a touchdown, obviously untouched on a slant route. Mike Jackson just seemed to give up on. That's got to be addressed inside the cornerback room. The DB room has to definitely, go over that this week in film and, call out Mike Jackson in front of everybody and say, look, dude, you know, just a few weeks ago, you and J.C. Horn were the number 2 ranked graded duo as the cornerback group. J.C. Horn's picking up the slack, but you got to pick up the slack too. If Ejiro Rivera is not going to have J.C. Horn travel with wide receiver one. He's got to make sure Mike Jackson's ready to go. Obviously, this week we won't have to worry about a wide receiver one because Garrett Wilson's not here. I think we'll be fine with whoever. If we want, I guess who's wide receiver two is Alan Lazard.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can. I'm fine with Mike Jackson guarding Alan Lazard. I'm gonna be honest with you. George Pickens is 5 times better than Alan Lazard. I'll stand on that heel, and I'll die on that heel. George Pickens could be a wide receiver one on a few teams. Alan Lazard's not really gonna be a wide receiver on one on anybody's team. The Jets just don't really have a strong wide receiver room outside of Garrett Wilson and him. So, you know, we'll see over the next few weeks. You're gonna have a few tough games where you're gonna have good wide receiver ones. Obviously, we have the Rams in the future. We're gonna have the Bucks in the future. We're gonna have, you know, who else we have? We have the Bills in the
Packers.
future. So we have the Packers. So we'll see if J.C. Horn, we'll see if Edro Rivero switches up his defense and has J.C. Horn fall wide receiver one. As of now, in the offseason, the question was asked by reporters, and he said, we'll see what happens. So I think it's something he's definitely thought about. I don't think it's something he hasn't thought about ever. Obviously, he did it in the last drive. Jason Horn told him, hey, I want to be on George Pickens. And Edro Rivero did listen to his player and say, okay, you can be on George Pickens. So if that can be something we can implement in practice, just figure out, hey, who's the wide receiver one, let's identify him, who has the best stats, who has the best, the most targets, figure that out and say, what, Jason Horn, I want you to follow that guy. Mike Jackson can play cornerback against wide receiver two. He's done well against wide receiver twos, but he does not do well against wide receiver ones over and over again. That's for sure. George Pickens just figured out how to pick them apart. It was on the short stuff, the intermediate stuff, and the long stuff. It just didn't seem like Mike Jackson had an answer for any of it. And George Pickens definitely found a way to exploit him in every phase of the game yesterday. Every route, every concept was just won by George Pickens. I don't think Mike Jackson won one. He may have. I just missed it, but um, definitely got to figure out the pass defense. The rush defense is so impressive, man. I'm so proud of the rush defense. Back to back weeks of under 50 rushing yards. Actually, back to back weeks of under 35 rushing yards. The Cowboys only had 31 rushing yards all day yesterday. They were 5 for 12 on third down. They also were 2 for 4 in the red zone. We had a few good red zone stops. We had a goal line stop with like 8 minutes to go. That was really impressive. Very proud of the defense for stepping up in that moment. And bend don't break mentality. But I think we there's a lot to hang your hat on for the Carolina Panthers this week. Going into a week where you're playing an 0-6 New York Jets team who are coming off a long flight overseas. Like we talked about, most overseas teams get a bye after they play overseas. So, the Jets don't obviously get that. They have to come back home and get ready to play the Carolina Panthers, who are coming off of, back-to-back wins and looking for their third win in a row and looking to have a winning record. So, um, there's a lot of things to answer within the Jets organization. Obviously, you're losing your wide receiver one for the next few weeks. Justin Fields, who you paid 3 years, $50 million for, doesn't look very good right now. The offensive line is really struggling. Might be the worst offensive line in the league. They let up 9 sacks yesterday. Justin Fields only nine completions, 9 sacks given up. So if we can do that, that's another big thing for us. Is no sacks yesterday. I think we're very low in the league, maybe dead last in the league in sacks. Obviously, we had 3 last week. I think we had 5 total on the year, so we're not even averaging one a game. So that's definitely something we got to figure out. I think that a lot the secondary has something to do with that as well. Wide receivers are open like right away, so the quarterback can get it out quickly. It's not giving our pass rushers time to get there. There's a few times yesterday where it seemed like guys like Princely and Nick and Pat Jones were there right at the end, and they just didn't get there in time. So, um, obviously we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. Pass rush has to get better. Pass defense has to get better. Stick to the run defense. Stick whatever you're doing, whatever the scheme is. Keep that scheme. Keep it going, and just get better at the little things week by week. That's what makes a good team better. Dave Canales talks about it in post game speeches. We got to keep doing what we do. That's Panther football, and that's why we win football games. Is we play Panther football and we get better at the little things week by week. And I think Dave Canales is the right guy. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Many people said last year that we got Dave Canales a year early. He was only an OC for 1 year in Tampa Bay. Some people say, man, we thought Dave Canales would be here for 2 years and he'd be the hottest commodity, after his second year as offensive coordinator. But David Tepper took a chance on the kid. He took a chance on a 40-year-old guy who was an offensive coordinator for 1 year. He said, that's the guy we want. he had a lot of conviction for him when he came into the interview process, and he said, "I don't want him to leave. I want him to be our next head coach." Obviously, a lot of us were confused by it. A lot of us didn't know who he was. Obviously, it was a questionable decision to go from Frank Wright to a young coach. You had a lot of turnover, but I think we definitely got the right guy. We've always had our differences with Dave Canales and the whole coaching staff, but as of now, I think we got our guy. I think Dave Canales and Bryce Young's a duo we can be okay with for the next few years if everything goes well. But I'm very impressed, man. I'm very happy with this team. I love this team with everything in me. Obviously, you know that my support has never wavered, no matter what the record is, no matter what the games are like. I always have something to say, good and bad. But my love and my support for the team has never wavered, and I'll always be loyal to the end. My kids will be Panther fans. My girlfriend's turned into one, so I grew up as one. My dad made me one, so um, you know, it's a fandom. Being a fan of a sports team has its high and has its lows. Obviously, every team can say that, every fan can say that, but we've definitely had our lows of late, and it feels just good, so good to finally have a high and be 500 again. That's a high we haven't felt in a long time. Obviously, 4 years almost. So
Yeah.
we're just going to enjoy this. We're going to have fun. We're going to enjoy it week by week, and bring out these pods every week with excitement and happiness, no matter what happens.
Yeah, man. It's just so much to like unpack. Uh, when the game was over yesterday, it was really just like a surreal moment, just like because we haven't had that big time win to really actually mean something.
For sure.
We were basically on national television with the majority of the country watching. Uh, and so just having that win and knowing, and I'm pretty sure the players knew it too as well. Uh, so that I'm sure they were extra motivated to play well that game. Uh, but also with that, it also comes to a lot of people seeing the whooping that Pickens got on Mike Jackson, which
Yeah, talk about living, boy. Whew,
yeah, man,
man.
it was, and you knew my frustrations about Mike Jackson's performance during the game. I was so heated, bro. Like, but you know, besides the fact, obviously 3-3, have a real good chance to go 4-3. Obviously, I'm taking it one game at a time. I'm not even
Yes, for
looking
sure.
at the other games. And for the first time, this feels like in a while, it feels like a trap game. You never know with the NFL.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of crazy saying the
so
Panthers are going to go into a trap game. usually,
yeah,
usually teams are saying that about us, but now we're saying it about other teams. So that's even more of a happy thing to say. Is you never want to say trap game, but it's pretty happy to say trap game that we're going into a trap game. That
yeah,
means we're a team that should win. So
yeah,
yeah, for sure it's a trap game, no doubt. But I feel confident about us.
yeah. And Derek Brown said in the interview today, he was like, uh, he's gonna make sure the guys are prepared to go in because obviously he knows what it feels like to be, in the Jets position right now, uh,
For sure.
scratching and clawing for that first win, uh, with a new coach. Obviously at that point, I think we were like what the same record as them when we had our first win with Frank Reich. We were like 0-6,
Yep, I think
0-7,
so.
something like that, and we beat them. And so obviously felt the excitement during that time. So that's kind of how Jets fans are feeling right now. Just hoping for that first win. They're hoping it's against us, but we gotta make sure that we treat the Jets just like any other team. Uh,
For
and
sure.
that's just the main thing I was so worried about coming into this game. I'm like, how are we gonna play? Having a 500 record, on going on the road again, knowing that we're not very good on the road. So it's just interesting just to look out, see what we can do. In terms of the game, this yesterday, I thought Bryce Young played a good game. Besides that interception, which wasn't his fault, I thought I told you I'm not even excluding that interception. He had a zero pick day for me. Uh, I thought he played very well. He made the right reads. Um, I thought that end zone to the back with Tedero McMillan. I thought he read it very well. I looked at the back end zone camera angle. Um, he knew that Donovan Wilson was gonna jump the pass. I think he like pump faked on it, and then T Mac, kind of went up, and then he put in a bucket right there. So I think his reads were
Nice.
really good yesterday. He obviously made the tight window throw to Hunter Renfro to kind of like basically seal the game for us to get us in a field goal position and really ice the game. So very impressed with Bryce yesterday. Obviously, he's not putting up the 350 plus numbers or all that, but he's making the right decisions, and that's
Yeah,
what we
for
got
sure.
at school right now at the moment. Um, and obviously Rico Dowdle, I think he's gonna go back to back win NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Uh, with all
That's
that
crazy.
going on. So, and I don't know what's gonna happen, when Chuba Hubbard comes back, because
Yeah,
you can't just not play Rico Dowdle, someone who just had over 200 plus scrimmage yards back to back. Um,
yeah.
so it was kind of
I think I'll speak over you, but they asked Dave Canales today. He said they asked him, "Do you think Rico Dowdle has earned a cornerback one position, no matter what Chuba does? Like when Chuba comes back?" And he says, he looked at him and he said, "We'll see." So it's definitely something he's thought about. Like you said, you cannot just sit that guy down. You can't just start giving Chuba Hubbard 20 carries a game. Do I think they could be a 1-2 punch like Montgomery and Gibbs? Yes, that's what you need to do is make them a 1-2 punch like Gibbs and Montgomery. Make them that 1-2 punch like we used to have in Carolina and D'Angelo Williams and Jace too. Make it that 1-2 punch that everybody can just be like, okay, now you got to scheme for not one guy but two guys. You got to scheme for both of them, and you got to scheme for Tedero McMillan. You got to scheme for Xavier Leggett. You got to scheme for Jalen Coker. You got to scheme for Tommy Trimble. That's when you make a good offense great. Is when you make teams scheme for multiple offensive guys, multiple stars, multiple players, and Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard can be that 1-2 punch in the backfield. And I so hope Dave Canales utilizes it. The run game looks amazing the past few weeks. He's obviously said since he got the Carolina as the head coach, he said he wants to build a foundation where they run the ball first. Keep doing that. Keep that mentality. Let them both run the ball. Trevor Etienne can run the ball too. He looks impressive every time he touches the ball. He doesn't make stupid decisions. You have three good running backs in the backfield, and all three of them are very young. They're under 30 years old. So I'm very impressed with the running back room right now, and I hope they just utilize it the right way when Chuba comes back.
amen, bro. And if we can have, and if you're gonna play both running backs, Hubbard can be that power back like Montgomery, uh, and Dowdle can be that elusive, you know, first down, second down back like Jameer Gibbs is, who
For
takes
sure.
the majority of the carries, but still, that's a good issue to have. Have those two running backs.
Oh yeah,
You
for
know,
sure, for sure.
so really, so interesting to see what we do with that problem going forward. Um, I thought the wide receivers did their job this week. Timo Horn got a little bit more involved this week. I think his role is increasing, week by week. He had that big catch coming out of the second half to kind of like lead that drive or spark that drive for us. So that was good to see. So hopefully he gets an even more bigger role, this week against the Jets. Kind of experiment with him more. And as far as the defense, I can't really complain. When you hold a team under 40 rushing yards in back-to-back games, that's a very impressive, and that's really, got to give credit to DB. I mean, he's really the anchor of our D line, um, kind of helping everyone else get, the rest of the, tackles with Bobby Brown and all them guys, because everyone's focusing on DB, so that leaves more opportunities for the other guys. Um,
Yeah,
Princely had a good game. He had back-to-back plays where he came back from the opposite side, made a tackle for no gain.
for sure.
So really, really just really good seeing all the young guys get active. Um, J.C. Horn shut down corner like always. He had that one catch he let up. But that was really, really great coverage by him. It was just a good
Yeah,
ball
he was
by Dak.
that much away from picking it off too. So it's just
Yeah,
it's a game of inches. It's always been that. He's going to give up a few here and there, but he doesn't give up many. That's for sure.
yeah. Um, And Mike Jackson, hopefully this week he doesn't give up over 150 yards receiving. So, uh, and he said in the interview, he was like, he's trying to make us some excuse. He was like, yeah, man, me and George Pickens, we're going back and forth with it. He had some catches. I had some plays. Like, bro, the
Man, you
defense.
watching raw? Hey, let's pull up that film. Did we watch the same game you watched? Because I
Bro,
did not see you make any plays, my man. I saw him make 9 catches on you for 168 yards, and he scored a touchdown on a 5 yard slant route, and he was untouched because you gave up on the play and couldn't run him down. So don't give me that. We went back and forth. Yeah, the only back and forth y'all went was talking smack to each other, and he still beat you on that as well because he dominated you. So don't even say nothing. Yeah, just get in the film room and watch the Jets wide receivers and figure out how you stop Alan Lazard because you ain't stopped GP for nothing, buddy.
how the Fox Sports cameras be when they pan to the backup cornerbacks. That's
They was
how they
finding
supposed to
Corey
be
Thornton out
doing.
there.
Yeah,
It
man,
was
for
like,
sure.
where's Corey Thornton at, bro?
So it's crazy.
Honestly, put the kid in. I like Corey Thornton.
Facts. Gotta play the guys. But and then obviously we have the Jets coming in this week, so we'll talk more about it, as the week goes. We'll make some videos, TikTok, talk about it on the Twitter, all that stuff. But yeah, man, really fun weekend. Let's keep that momentum going, and I'm hyped. Let's get that 4-3 record, bro.
Let's do it, baby. Let's do it.
All right, man. That's that's all we got today on the podcast, episode 6. We'll make sure to get some more content on the YouTube this week, on the TikTok, and make sure you follow us on our Twitter. Michael been handling his business on the Twitter, making sure the page is active and everything like that, man. So really shout out to you, bro, for making that Twitter go on. And
Shout out to you for the TikTok. Shout out to Daniel
yes,
keeping it going
sir,
on TikTok. Just had a video blow up, so go ahead and follow us. Go ahead and give us a
yes,
like and
sir.
follow, subscribe on everything. We're building this thing day by day, and we're proud to give y'all the content y'all want. We're proud to talk about the Panthers in the NFL. So just two young best friends who love sports talking about balls. So follow, like, subscribe, whatever it is, and just follow us on this journey. Thank y'all.
Yes, sir, man. We'll see y'all later, bro. Thank y'all.